Hey guys, it's Come Follow Me time. We're in 1Nephi chapters 1 through 5, and this is a really good start. It's not too much reading. You guys can do this, and you should be familiar with the story. Now, if you're just picking this up for the first time, don't panic because it's really easy to digest. Really awesome stuff. So, 1Nephi 1. I'm covering this week these 5 chapters, 1 per day, just because it seemed to work like that. So, no other reason than it just seemed to work like that. It made sense, so we're going with that. So let's have a look at 1Nephi. Now, of course, we know how it starts off, but if we read this a lot, we tend to not pay attention to the words so much. We just sort of like to say them and go, yep, we know that. But actually, what's in them? So this is one of the things where sometimes we step back, but sometimes it's just pause and look at this. So we know the first part, but he says there, and having seen many afflictions in the course of my days, this is in verse 1, second part of verse 1, nevertheless, having been highly favoured of the Lord in all my days, yea, having had a great knowledge of the goodness and the mysteries of God. And he goes into the make a recording, then he talks about the language that he's going to do it in, and what's happening at the time, like the prophets that have like come about. Now this, if you look in the footnotes in verse 4, it says prophets, and it'll take you to 2 Kings, 2 Chronicles, and Jeremiah. So Jeremiah is one of the prophets around here. So is Nahum, I think Zedekiah. Go have a look. They're all in there. There's a whole bunch of them. It's around 600 BC. Lehi is one of a few. There's, and when I say few, I mean actually quite a many. There's not like thousands of them, but there's probably all up, some we probably don't even know of. Some are named, but there's at least sort of 10, which for the southern kingdom of Jerusalem, quite a few. But there's a lot of people there. So, but anyway, that's around that time. So that puts that in context. But if you look at this, and you will see this through these 5 chapters this week, and indeed all of Nephi's writings, how he chooses to look. Now, if you've heard of Bader-Meinhof syndrome, that's just developed. I didn't even look up who that's called. I just know it is that. It's actually frequency illusion. That's what it's known as, but whoever named it that obviously was Bader-Meinhof. I probably should look that up so I know. But anyway, maybe for my class on Sunday, they'll get the good stuff. He's talking here spiritual frequency illusion, as in the more you think about it, that's what you're going to see first. And then you do that. If you look at something like when you're wanting to buy a particular car and you'll see that car everywhere. Or you're thinking about ice cream and suddenly everyone's eating ice cream. It's what is in the forefront of your mind. So spiritual or frequency illusion talks about notice what's on top of the mind. So what's up here? Now this plays into the Old Testament tradition that some people hold to now. Not very many, but back then it was a big deal. The phylacteries that they used to have in their headbands around here, so that this is the forefront of their mind. So this plays into this, and this would have been something that he was quite familiar with. So he's knowing that actually this is an important thing. Whatever's here, I'm going to be thinking of it, what I need to put there. Because he says there, having seen many afflictions in the course of my days, like I've had a hard life. Nevertheless, having been highly favoured of the Lord. Now, what does it mean to be highly favoured? We'll get to that, because it's not necessarily God's favourite, because we're all God's favourite. This is a choosing to be that way. Makes you highly favoured, but in living highly favoured, the blessings are huge. He goes on to say there, having had a great knowledge of the goodness and the mysteries of God, he chooses to see the good. And you will see this throughout. We'll point out a couple more. So he's looking for this goodness daily. He's looking in all things that he comes in hardness across, that he describes here, and you can see it in his character and his writing. He talks about like what is there, what is the focus that he's going for, and how to have that. So, he's highly favoured due to many afflictions, basically, because he's seen the goodness. He's been given these afflictions to grow, making him highly favoured. It's we think favoured means popular. Not in this instance so much. It just means that you're going to have a lot of work to do, basically. Choosing to see Christ as top of mind. Now, you'll see this again over, we'll see this in verse, he talks about his father's vision that he has. So you'll see it again over in 15. He'll talk about, he says, and after this manner was the language of my father and the praising of his God. So you can see that Lehi was someone who did this too. And, there's times where Lehi struggled and said, oh my gosh, this is not going well. Why is this? But Lehi tried to do this as well. So this is something that was in their family. Laman and Lemuel seem to have missed this lesson, and we'll get to that as well this week. But after this manner of language, you will hear this phrase a lot this week, and it's like, I'm choosing to speak this way, I'm choosing to think this way, I'm choosing to focus in this way. And then again, down in the end of 20, it says, but behold, I, Nephi, will show unto you that the tender mercies of the Lord are over all those whom he hath chosen, because of their faith, to make them mighty unto the power of deliverance. Now this goes back to what Elder Ben was talking about, being chosen, is in that we choose to be chosen. We choose to accept that call. The call is given. God sees something in us, and we all have a call, but not all of us take it. So we all have this, and we talked about this last week too. We all have this call. Some of us, actually a lot of us, choose not to take it. Those that choose to take it are choosing to be chosen, are choosing to be favored. It means more work, it means more heartache, it means more struggle and learning and affliction, because that's what produces growth. So, and amongst all of that, continue to see Jesus in all things. So he comes across like that will be in there. So we're looking at, yes, there's the beginning of the vision in there. Yes, there's the beginning of the story. However, let's look at this. What do you notice most? So an overarching way of life for Nephi that you will notice as we read his account is this way of thinking that focuses on the preeminent thoughts that we have. Done daily, it allows us to focus on the things that matter, keep us safe, and allow maximum growth through Christ. Thus, the being favored, maximum growth. Using Nephi's way of spiritual frequency thinking, because that's what I'm going to call it from now on. Spiritual frequency thinking. It's not an illusion would indicate that something's not there, because that's what we've come to believe now. But if you go back to the old school illusions, when they're talking about illusions, it's your perception as to what you see first. So you do that classic woman in the vase, like the two faces in the vase in the middle. What are you going to see? A lot of people see the vase, a lot of people see two faces. People see both. But you will see what you choose to see first is going to come up. Your mind is focused on those things, and when you see stuff like that, it'll like click. Before you actively notice something, you will see the good before you see the ugly, if that's what you're focusing on. If you're focusing on negativity, complaining, and ugly, you'll see the ugly. And we'll talk more about that. But using this way of spiritual frequency thinking, what blessings do you see for him and his family here? Have a look at them, identify them, bring this up with your family when you're having discussions, see what you can find. And how does this way of thinking help Nephi see ways forward? Consider that as you go into this book as well, into Nephi's writings. How does thinking like this help him to see ways forward? Because he does constantly. Even if he has moments of getting stuck, he overcomes it fairly quickly. Really, really fairly quickly. Not always as quick as we think, but fairly quickly, and sees a way forward. And how does this help us see blessings? How does this help us see the blessings now in our lives? And how does thinking this way help us move forward, trusting God in the process? So think of all those questions. If you're wondering what they are, again, they're in the comments. Go have a look. Think about this. How does thinking this way actually help us? Because it does. So consider that. What do you notice most? And what does Nephi do to notice most? So that he's in that right thinking as well. So that he's in that frame of mind that brings in the good stuff that helps him move forward. Because that's what we need right now, isn't it? So there you go. Something to really look at. Hang on, we're going over to 1 Nephi chapter 2. Don't confuse it. It's 1 Nephi chapter 2 where he seeks answers. Look, see you there.